Have you noticed what really exposes your room? Not when it's messy, not when you have time. It's when you're in a hurry. It's midnight. You need one tiny thing, your charger, a document, your keys, and suddenly your room turns into a maze. You open one drawer, it sticks. You pull one box labeled later, it spills. And your heart is beating like you just ran up 3 flights of stairs because of a cable. That's the moment you think you're searching for an object, but your brain is actually searching for peace. Because the room isn't just a room, it's a router, and it's choking. Every extra item is like a silent device that connected to your Wi-Fi without asking. It doesn't scream. It doesn't move. It doesn't look dangerous, but it eats your bandwidth slowly until your life starts to lag. And there's a kind of exhaustion you can't explain. Not I worked too much tired. I walked into my own home and got heavier tired. Here's why. Most clutter isn't clutter. It's unfinished decisions. And the craziest part? The thing draining you isn't always the biggest item. It's the first one that triggers a reaction in your body. So try this. 5 seconds. Don't clean anything. Don't fix anything. Stand at your doorway. Scan the room once, quickly. And notice the first object that makes you sigh or tighten your jaw or think, I should deal with that. That's your biggest bandwidth thief. Because your brain doesn't see objects the way your eyes do. Your eyes see stuff. Your brain sees open tabs, and those tabs come in 3 types. Type 1, items that belong to the future. The version of you that was going to be disciplined. The running shoes, the planner, the course, the gym membership. They don't accuse you, but they quietly ask, when? Type 2, items that belong to the past. Not because they're useful, but because they're attached to a relationship you never fully closed. A gift, a letter, a forgotten hoodie, a cracked mug that belonged to someone you miss. You're not keeping the object. You're keeping the proof that what you felt was real. Type 3 is the most dangerous. Items in waiting mode. The bags, the boxes, the just-in-case piles, they promise safety. But the price is you live in a waiting room inside your own home. Here's the twist. A lot of people think they keep things because they're greedy. No, sometimes you keep things because you're loyal. Loyal to a promise. Loyal to a version of yourself. Loyal to someone you don't want to disappoint. Even if that someone is you. So when you consider throwing something away, it hurts. Not because the item is precious, but because the story is. Your brain hates unfinished endings. An open decision sits in your mind like a browser tab that never closes. And the more tabs you have, the hotter the system runs. Even when you're doing nothing. That's what makes you tired. You're not living. You're running background processes. Let me give you an example. Someone keeps an old suitcase with a broken zipper. It's objectively useless, but they carried it on their first trip after a brutal breakup. The first time they proved to themselves, I can survive. I can move. Throwing the suitcase away feels like throwing away the evidence of growth. So here's the truth. You don't cling to objects. You cling to meaning. And sometimes you cling to a version of yourself you're still trying to rescue. The disciplined you, the creative you, the good child you, the someone who has it together you. That's why you feel trapped between 2 fears. If I let it go, I'm ungrateful. If I keep it, I'm suffocating. So how do you close the story without feeling like you betrayed your past? This is going to sound simple, but it works because it targets meaning, not mess. Pick one object, the one you've delayed the longest. Not the cheapest one, not the easiest one, the one that quietly owns you. Then say out loud or on paper, thank you, I get it now. And ask one question, what fear am I using this item to manage? You'll be surprised. The answer usually has nothing to do with the object. A friend once kept an old vanity table. The mirror was cloudy. The drawer stuck. Everyone told her to replace it. But the vanity belonged to her mother. And the fear wasn't the furniture. The fear was, if I let this go, I'm letting my mother disappear. And sometimes you're not storing stuff. You're storing reassurance that you're a good person, that you care, that you didn't forget, that you didn't give up. But the cost of that reassurance is constant mental rent. Every day, your room hands you emotional invoices. And here's the contradiction most people miss. You think you want calm, but you use clutter like a blanket to avoid a bigger question. If these things weren't here, who would I be? That's why so many people clean and then rebound. They remove the mess, and suddenly the silence feels too loud. Now there's another layer. Some people can tolerate visual noise. They call it cozy. They call it personality. Other people walk into the same room and feel attacked. Not because they're dramatic, because their nervous system is like a microphone with the gain turned up. It catches everything. It can't filter. You can spot it if this sounds familiar. You're not tired from working. You're tired from being in your environment. A cluttered shelf feels like constant buzzing. A messy desk feels like 1,000 tiny alarms. And people around you might say, just ignore it. But your brain can't. For those people, a cleaner space isn't aesthetic. It's oxygen. But here's the part nobody sells you. At first, empty space doesn't feel amazing. It feels exposed. like walking into a quiet room after years of loud TV. You think you wanted peace, and then you feel uneasy in peace because you're not used to hearing yourself. So what's the difference between someone who truly becomes lighter and someone who cleans once and falls back? It's not discipline. It's one question. Not, do I need this? Because you can always argue your way into maybe. The real question is, am I willing to pay for this every day? Pay with what? Time to maintain it. Mental space to remember it. Stress if it breaks, gets lost, gets stolen. And that invisible fee every time your eyes land on it, a new tab opens. Unfinished. When you ask it like that, objects stop being harmless. They become contracts, long contracts you never read. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes you didn't buy the item to use it. You bought it to feel like someone, a fancy water bottle to feel healthy, a new desk to feel disciplined, a camera to feel artistic. You bought identity in physical form. Then you get stuck in a trap. You didn't change, but you own proof that you had good intentions. The object becomes a moral certificate. Keeping it reduces guilt, but it also keeps reminding you you're delaying. So the solution isn't to punish yourself by throwing everything away. The solution is to separate identity from objects. Don't let a thing represent a person. Once you do that, something weird happens. You start craving empty space. Not because it looks good, but because your brain finally stops buffering. Now, we have to talk about the last trap, the one that ruins most people. You clear space and then you use that new space as permission to buy more. A new shelf to organize, a new box to categorize, a new decoration so it doesn't feel empty. And a few weeks later, your router is choking again, just in a cleaner layout. Here's the twist. The problem isn't buying. The problem is what you're trying to avoid. You're using new things to escape an old feeling, emptiness. The moment you have no noise to hide behind, you have to sit with yourself. And this is where compassion matters. A lot of people keep things not because they're materialistic, but because they're missing something deeply human. Comfort, certainty, belonging. Objects become a clumsy way of holding yourself. But you still have a choice. Either you keep paying bandwidth fees every day, or you learn a quieter kind of comfort. A comfort that doesn't weigh your home down. So don't start with throw it away. Start with close it. Close the relationship with the object by saying one final line. Thank you for representing what I wanted. Now I'll represent it with action. Then do one small thing in the next 24 hours. Not buying, not organizing, living. If the object was your health symbol, take a 10-minute walk. If it was your creative symbol, write one paragraph. If it was your self-respect symbol, set one boundary. Let identity come from behavior again. And here's the final question. The one that changes how you see your room. If someone you love walked in here tomorrow, would they see you? Or would they see your open tabs? If you want to try this with me, leave a comment, one sentence. My biggest bandwidth thief is teacher, because it's holding on to no. You'll be shocked how many people are living in the same waiting room, and how quickly it feels lighter when you realize you're not alone.